Unbelievable revelation, I didn't buy you, I rescued you. The cowboy who saw her true value. The dusty horizon shimmered under the blistering sun, casting an eerie glow over Dry Creek. The murmurs of intrigue rippled through the small town like wildfire, drawing everyone in. Whispers danced among the townsfolk as a figure on horseback trotted into view, his rugged silhouette cutting a striking image against the sky. The man was none other than Gus McAllister, a cowboy with a reputation as wild as the unbroken horses he rode. But this wasn't just any day. This day, he carried a truth that would shatter illusions and ignite fears. Gus had spent years drifting through life, an enigma wrapped in leather and dust, but there was something more pressing now. His heart raced, not from the gallop of his horse, but from the weight of a secret, the kind that could bend minds and break hearts. At the center of it all was Clara, the most exquisite woman in town. Dressed in faded jeans and a plaid shirt, she had the spirit of a wildflower, yet the town had boxed her into a corner, labeling her as nothing more than a pretty face. But Gus knew better. Oh, he knew. In the shadows of the saloon, a broken bell clanged as Clara poured drinks, her smile masking the pain of the town's judgment. There had been whispers, strange tales of her past, legends of her beauty bought by those with deep pockets. But Gus met that twisted vision with fierce determination. The moment he stepped into the saloon, the air charged with an electric tension. It was then he boldly declared, "I didn't buy you, I rescued you." Gasps reverberated among the patrons, eyes widened, mouths agape. The very air felt thick enough to cut, suffocating the townspeople caught between shock and disbelief. Suddenly, the sheriff, a burly man with a scowl, stood from his seat, fists clenched. "You're stirring up trouble, Gus," he warned, red-faced and trembling with anger. The bar fell silent, a space where even whispers dared not tread. Eyes flickered between Gus and Clara, a duel of emotions playing out in silence. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the tense silence lingered, Clara felt her heart pound like a war drum. Could it be a rescue? The line between love and savior blurred. Gus's stormy eyes met hers, his fierce gaze promising protection against the small-mindedness of their world. Yet, could he truly face the darkness that lurked in the shadows of her past? What secrets did she hide, deep in the recesses of her soul? The room buzzed with anticipation, uncertain what would happen next, but they all felt the looming storm. Each breath held tightly, as if to keep the truth at bay. A collision was coming, and as the clock ticked down, everyone waited with bated breath, craving the revelation that might unravel everything they thought they knew. Would the cowboy's promise hold true, or were they all destined to drown in the whirlpool of their own fears? The tension in the saloon was thick enough to taste, like gunpowder waiting to ignite. Clara's pulse raced, each heartbeat echoing the wild chaos of emotions swirling around her, shock, fear, a flicker of hope. She could hardly believe what Gus had just claimed. In a town where silence often spoke louder than words, his voice cut through the air like a knife, offering her a lifeline, but the danger in that promise loomed large. Gus stood firm, defiance radiating off him like heat waves. The sheriff's face deepened with rage, fists balled at his sides as if preparing for a fight. "Step down, Gus. You don't know what you're messing with." His thick voice rumbled over the hushed crowd, every word dripping with authority, but Gus wasn't backing down. No way. His heart was pounding, matching the chaotic rhythm in Clara's chest. "What I'm messing with is the truth," he shot back, unwavering. Laughter and disbelief spread through the onlookers at that bold proclamation. Somewhere in that packed room, a woman gasped, shaking her head as if reality had somehow morphed into a fever dream. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "Gus, you don't have to do this," she whispered, urgency laced in her tone. "Maybe not," Gus replied, eyes unwavering as they held hers. "But I will. We can't let them drown you in their lies, Clara. Not anymore." But the sheriff wasn't done. He lumbered forward, each heavy footfall resonating like a threat. "You think this will protect her? You're just making things worse, and you know it. They'll come for her and for you." The crowd shifted restlessly, eyes darting between the two men while hushed murmurs climbed like steam. Some faces reflected fear, others satisfaction. If nothing else, they'd gotten a story for the evening, a slice of drama to gossip about. "Let them come. I don't care," Gus spat back, choking on the weight of commitment. The sincerity in his words hung heavily like smoke. Clara could feel the stirrings of something deep within her, a long-buried instinct to fight back against the damning tide. "Is this what you want, Clara?" The sheriff barked, his eyes boring into her. "Be the center of attention for vultures? This guy is playing with fire." Clara's heart sank. She thought about the shadows that crept closer on the edges of her mind, the rumors that lingered like a cloud over her everyday life. What did she really want? Horace, the banker with his lustful eyes? Or a rugged cowboy willing to stand up to a past she couldn't escape? Holding herself steady, she took a shaky breath. "Gus, if you believe I need rescuing, then her words faltered. The weight of countless unanswered questions settled heavy. Derision cut into her. "You can't be serious, Clara. This is madness." One of the townswomen spat, breaking the tenuous silence. "Madness or not, it's my choice," Clara declared, her voice rising, conviction blooming like wildfire. Eyes widened, this was unexpected, even shocking. A flicker of pride sparked in Gus's chest. But just as quickly, a new wave of worry crashed over him. What were they getting into? The sheriff laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through the saloon. "You think those rich men will take this lightly? They'll come for both of you. Just wait." The gravity of his words sank low in Clara's stomach. The threat wasn't just looming, it was approaching fast. Suddenly, the saloon door swung open, creating a stark silhouette against the brightness outside. A group of men stepped inside, dark glints in their eyes as they scanned the room, searching, hunting. Gus felt the warning signal go off inside him. "This isn't over," he whispered to Clara as tension crackled around them, but just who were these men? And did Clara's past really possess the power to consume them both? The stakes had just raised. The storm was gathering strength, and it was only a moment before it struck. Would Clara and Gus weather it together, or would the weight of their choices force them into darker waters? Only time would tell. The saloon's door creaked ominously as the group of men strode inside, a dark cloud moving over the sunlit interior. Eyes turned, every head swiveling to assess the intruders. Clara's breath hitched in her throat, the atmosphere thickened with dread, heavy enough to smother a scream. "Look what we have here," one of the men said, his voice smooth but sinister, like ice scraping against bone. He had a scar running down his cheek, a jagged reminder of past violence. "You all having a party without us?" The sheriff straightened, his bravado slipping momentarily. "You're not welcome here, Clay. Get out before you what? Arrest me?" "I think not," Clay interrupted, stepping closer, a smirk plastered on his face. "You're too busy babysitting these folks," he gestured toward Gus and Clara, "to keep your eye on real threats." Gus clenched his fists, the muscles in his jaw tightening. "What do you want, Clay?" he asked, forcing his voice to not betray the fear bubbling beneath his skin. "Oh, it's not about what I want. It's about what you're too blind to see," Clay mocked, looking between them, his gaze lingering on Clara. "You two think you're safe in this little show? You're all just pawns in a much bigger game." "What game?" Clara challenged, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. Clay's eyes glinted with malice. The kind where truths can vanish and lies reign supreme. You've got a pretty little past, Clara. Too pretty to stay buried. Silence fell, the patrons stood frozen like statues, breaths held captive. Clara could feel the room pulsating with tension, her heart racing. Past? What could he possibly know? The weight of her history pressed down on her like a vice. Shut your mouth, Gus warned, stepping protectively in front of Clara. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, but I do, Clay said, his tone dripping with amusement. The whole town knows. Your precious Clara isn't some innocent flower. She's got thorns that can stab deep, and it won't be long before they reach back for her. Clara felt heat rising to her cheeks, a mixture of shame and anger. She turned sharply, locking eyes with Gus, who looked equally shocked. What do you know, Clay? She whispered, the tremor in her voice revealing her uncertainty. Before Clay could respond, the sheriff took a step forward. Enough games. You need to leave, or I'll have you thrown out. Clay merely chuckled. You really think you can scare me off that easily? You're all too wrapped up in your little dramas to see reality. Clara is in danger, and if you don't start listening, it won't just be rumors haunting her, it'll be the truth catching up. The crowd murmured, watching intently as Clara's fragile composure began to crumble away. She felt the burning curiosity in everyone's eyes, the probing whispers that filled the saloon with life, yet left her feeling more alone than ever. Let them come, Clara found herself whispering, the words barely escaping her lips. I need to know the truth. Clara. Gus reached for her hand, his eyes pleading, but she pulled away. This wasn't just about her anymore, the fear of what Clay knew clawed at her insides. She needed to face this, face her past. Clay's smirk widened as he took a step back. Now we're getting somewhere. Meet me at the old mill tomorrow at dusk. If you've got the guts to find out who you really are, you'll be there. Without waiting for a response, he and his men left the saloon, leaving silence in their wake, a heavy shroud filled with apprehension and dread. What should we do? Gus asked, his voice laced with concern, eyes flicking to the door as if expecting Clay to return. Clara's heart raced, a storm brewing in her chest. I have to go. The unsettlement in the crowd bubbled back to life, whispers rising like smoke. Ignoring them, Clara felt a spark of resolve ignite within her, pushing past the fear. She needed answers, and she wouldn't back down, even if it meant walking into danger. Clara, Gus said firmly, eyes scanning the room filled with uncertainty. You don't know what you're walking into. Maybe not, she replied, determination lacing her voice. But if there's even a chance of uncovering the truth, I can't turn away now. As she stepped toward the saloon's entrance, the ground beneath her felt more unstable than ever. Tomorrow might reveal the secrets hidden within her past, but at what cost? Would uncovering the truth set her free, or would it drag her into something far darker? The clock was ticking, and Clara had no intention of backing down. Clara's pulse thrummed like a war drum as she stepped out into the cool evening air. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting everything in a fiery glow, and she shivered despite the warmth. Each breath felt heavy in her lungs, the weight of Clay's words echoing in her ears. What did he know? The thought twisted her stomach tighter, mixing dread with a gnawing curiosity. Gus caught up to her, the shadows of the saloon hanging like dark memories behind them. Clara, please, don't do this. You don't need to confront him. We can find another way. There is no other way. She snapped, frustration bubbling over. He knows something about me. Something I need to understand. I can't just run away. Gus opened his mouth to argue, but the fierce glint in Clara's eyes silenced him. He reached for her shoulder, desperate to pull her back, but he faltered. What if this is a trap? What if he wants to hurt you? Then at least I'll know why, she replied, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. The temptation to turn away was strong, but as she looked at Gus's worried face, she felt a surge of determination. I can't keep running from my past. I want to let him scare me. Gus sighed deeply, the fight slowly leaving him. Fine. He nodded, resigned. But I'll be right there with you. I want to let anything happen to you. The corners of Clara's mouth twitched, a ghost of a smile. I know. You have always been my protector. But the warmth didn't last. She felt the reality of the coming night tighten around her like a noose. As the sun sank below the horizon, Clara and Gus made their way to the old mill, its silhouette looming against the darkening sky. The wind howled, carrying whispers that chilled Clara to her bones. Despite the twilight inching in, the mill appeared menacing, its broken windows looking like hungry eyes waiting to pounce. Are you sure about this? Gus asked quietly, uncertainty creeping back into his voice. Yeah. She inhaled sharply, glancing at the crumbling structure. When Clay shows, I'm going to confront this once and for all. They stepped closer. Every creak of the floorboards beneath their feet made Clara jump. The air was thick, and the scent of rust and decay filled her nostrils. This place reeked of forgotten stories and buried secrets. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, the crunch of gravel underfoot. Clara's heart raced, pounding loud enough to drown out her thoughts. Gus, she whispered, her eyes darting around, searching the dark corners of the mill. Stay close, he advised, his voice low and tense. They positioned themselves cautiously, shadows swallowing them, like they were mere echoes of the past. A figure emerged, Clay, stepping from the shadows, a sly grin plastered across his scarred face. You made it. His eyes danced with mock delight. I was starting to think you'd be too scared. What do you want from me? Clara demanded, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. Clay chuckled, pacing slowly, his boots thudding lightly on the rotting wood. It's not what I want, Clara. It's what you need to hear. He halted, locking eyes with her. But are you ready to face it? To confront the truth about yourself? Gus stepped forward defensively, tensing as if he could shield Clara from whatever horror lay ahead. You're playing games, Clay. Just say what you have to say. Clay waved a dismissive hand, his smirk widening. Oh, it's so much more than a game. I'm offering clarity. But first, you must understand what you truly are. Who you really belong to. Clara felt like he had struck her with a blow, words hanging heavy in the air like lead. Belong to? She echoed uneasily, her palms clammy. Your past isn't just a shadow, it has teeth. And those teeth are ready to bite. Clay's eyes darkened. Are you willing to listen? To discover the reality that games are built on? Clara looked at Gus, seeking reassurance, but found only concern mirrored back at her. The unease curdled like sour milk in her stomach as she nodded slowly. I'm ready, she whispered, her voice barely loud enough to break the tension. Clay stepped closer, his grin vanishing. Meet me at the edge of the mill where all truths collide. I'll reveal everything. As he turned to leave, Clara felt the ground shift beneath her. The darkness was swallowing them whole, and with each step Clay took, the whisper of her past drew nearer. What were the truths hidden there? And what cruel revelations awaited her? With a racing heart, Clara swallowed hard, the chill of uncertainty chilling her skin. Tomorrow would bring answers, a confrontation with the unseen. But would it drag her into the light, or plunge her deeper into the dark? The night stretched on, and so did the shadows, concealing her past and presenting an unsettling question. In unearthing the truth, what else would she awaken? Clara stood frozen as Clay vanished into the shadows, his last words echoing ominously in her mind. Was she really ready to confront whatever haunts her? She felt a mixture of dread and resolve coiling in her stomach, a dark creature lurking, waiting to pounce when the moment was right. Gus shifted beside her, his presence a comforting weight against the uncertain night. We should go back, he whispered, but there was an urgency in his tone, as if he feared for her even more than himself. No. Clara's voice was firm, slicing through the tension. I need to know what he wants to tell me. They made their way deeper into the mill, a foreboding atmosphere pressing in like a vice. Her instincts screamed at her to turn around, to escape into the familiar safety of the world outside, but a deeper instinct compelled her forward. She had to dive into the darkness if she hoped to understand her past or herself. The smell of mildew filled her nostrils, mingling with the earthy scent of old wood and rust. Dim light filtered through the cracks in the rotting walls, casting eerie patterns that danced across the ground. Suddenly, an unsettling noise broke the stillness, a scuttling sound that made Clara's skin crawl. She turned sharply, heart racing. Did you hear that? Clara asked, her eyes darting. Gus nodded, eyes wide, and stepped closer. Yeah, but before he could finish, Clara felt a rush of cold air, moving through the corridor like a whisper of something alive. Suddenly, a shadow shifted behind them, darting out of view, and Clara couldn't hold back a sharp gasp. Stay close. Gus stepped protectively in front of her, scanning the dark corners where the shadows curled. A flicker of fear crossed his face, but Clara pushed it aside. She had come here hoping to face down her demons, not become a victim of them. Clay said I need to know the truth, Clara muttered, more to herself than to Gus. I'll never forgive myself if I let fear control me again. In the distance, a muffled voice broke through the silence. Clara. Gus. It was Clay, calling from somewhere deeper within the mill. The familiarity of his voice sent a shiver through Clara. She steeled herself, blinking away the doubts that threatened to swallow her whole. They edged toward the source of the sound, propelled by curiosity and desperation. As they approached the edge of the mill, the atmosphere shifted again, charged with electricity. Was it fear? Fate? Clara felt the air change, thick and suffocating, like it harbored ancient secrets. When they reached the clearing, they found Clay waiting, illuminated by the ghostly light of the moon. His face was lit with an unsettling pleasure. Ah, there you are, he said smoothly. Now we can begin. Begin what? Clara demanded, her heart pounding in her chest, each beat a drumroll for whatever revelation came next. Clay stepped forward, his tone dropping, almost conspiratorial. It's time to peel back the layers. There's so much you don't know about your past. It's time we unearth your true identity. The air grew heavy, pressing down on Clara as if the mill itself were intently watching. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, struggling to keep her composure. Not just what you are, Clay's voice dropped lower, his gaze sharp, but who you belong to. You're part of something far greater than your fears. There are wolves at your door, Clara. And your past is the pack. Panic clawed at her throat, and the room spun. Clara could feel the weight of his words crushing down on her, and as her breath quickened, she glanced at Gus, eyes wide, jaw clenched. What's that supposed to mean? Clara took a cautious step back, her heart pounding like a runaway train. What are you saying? Clay smiled, a flash of malice crossing his features. Just know this, your power isn't just a personal treasure. It's a legacy, and it's bleeding into the present. The darkness behind her felt alive, creeping closer. Clara's mind whirled, each revelation feeling like shards of glass slicing through her sanity. Tomorrow, Clay said, his voice echoing in her mind, we'll untangle this web together. But tonight, the shadows have more to say. The shadows loomed, swallowing them in uncertainty. As a chilling wind rushed through the broken window, Clara's heart pounded relentlessly. What do you mean shadows have more to say? She questioned, uncertainty clawing at her courage, but outside, the oblong shadows pulsed and slithered, hinting at something more sinister waiting beyond. It was time to face the truth, and with it, the unknown that could either define her or destroy her. What else lay hidden in the darkness, just beyond her reach? The night had only just begun, and answers were a breath away, but at what cost? Clay's eyes held an unsettling glint, a spark of something that made the hairs on Clara's neck stand on end. The shadows stretched like fingers, groping for something they could latch onto. "Clay," Clara said, her voice trembling, "what are you really saying?" She took a step back, her heart racing as the weight of his words settled heavier on her shoulders. The corners of Clay's mouth curled into a smirk, as if savoring her confusion. "You've spent your entire life trying to be normal, haven't you? Living in the light while we rest in the dark. But what if it's the dark that holds the key to who you truly are?" Gus moved slightly, as though instinctively shielding Clara from Clay's piercing gaze. "Cut the theatrics, Clay. What's this about shadows and power?" His voice held a steady edge, but Clara could see the uncertainty flickering beneath. Clay shifted his focus, eyes narrowing as he considered Gus. "This doesn't involve you," he said, waving a dismissive hand. Then, turning back to Clara, he continued, "It's time for the truth. Do you trust me?" Trust, a word that felt like a fragile glass bauble, ready to shatter at any moment. Clara hesitated. "You've played games with my emotions, Clay," she said slowly. "Why should I believe anything you say?" "Because," he leaned closer, lowering his voice, "I'm just a messenger. I didn't come to deceive you, Clara. I came to rescue you." The revelation hit like ice water. A rescuer? The very idea was laced with a twisted irony that made her heart race faster. "Rescue?" she echoed, struggling to grasp the concept. "I don't even know who I am, let alone what I need rescuing from." Clay's expression shifted, a strange somberness breaking through his earlier facade. "You carry a legacy, Clara. One that has sought you out, tethering you to a world you don't yet understand. But I can guide you through the darkness." The shadows beckoned again, and Clara felt a surge of cold coursing through her veins. "What's in the darkness?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, straining against the fear that coiled tightly in her chest. Clay took a steadying breath, tone turning serious. "Creatures in the night, forces that will stop at nothing to reclaim their own. Creatures that once walked with you." Clara's mind raced. Her visions of a quiet, simple life were collapsing under the weight of his words. "No," she murmured. "This can't be right. I'm just me." "What creatures? What lineage?" He paused, gauging her expression. "You were placed in that life for a reason, but the threads of your past are unraveling. I need you to face this. They won't wait forever." Gus stepped to her side, the warmth of his presence a reassuring balm against the chill in the air. "Clara, we don't even know if he's telling the truth." His voice was low yet charged with a protective edge. A low rumble echoed through the mill, vibrating the very floor beneath them. Clara's stomach twisted as an uncanny feeling washed over her. "We can't leave, can we?" she whispered. "No," Clay insisted, drawing a deep breath. "The darkness is here to claim you, and tonight is when it starts." The shadows thickened, swirling violently as if responding to Clay's words. Clara's heart raced as shapes began to stir within the darkness. The feeling of being watched tightened like a grip around her throat. "Clara." A new voice broke through the chaos, deep and rich, echoing off the walls. The shadows trembled, and suddenly, a figure emerged, tall, imposing, and suffused with an aura of power that made the air crackle. "What are you doing here?" Clay growled, anger flashing in his eyes. Clara felt a rush of recognition wash over her. She had seen this man before once in a dream. Who are you?" she stammered, caught in an emotional crossfire as the pieces of her reality threatened to fragment. "Your true destiny awaits," the newcomer said, a serious intensity radiating from him. "And only you can unlock the door." The shadows recoiled, drawn back by the force of his presence. But the question hung heavy in the air: what would emerge if she stepped forward? As Clara hesitated, forces stirred in the depths of the mill, unsettling and restless. The choice loomed before her, a precipice of uncertainty. What awaited her on the other side had no guarantee of safety. This night would reveal all. But at what price? Everything hung in the balance, and the shadows whispered her name, beckoning her closer to the truth that could change everything, or seal her fate forever. The air thickened as Clara's heart pounded against her ribcage, a frantic drum echoing in the void of the mill. The figure before her towered with a raw, magnetic essence, pulling her forward as if invisible strings tethered her to him. Shadows swirled around, daring her to take a step closer while the darkness shivered with anticipation. Your true destiny. Clara's mind raced. What did that even mean? Just when she thought she'd figured out her life, Clay had upended everything. And now this man appeared with an authority she couldn't ignore. Who are you? She repeated, more fiercely this time, desperation bleeding into her voice. I am Hal, he replied, his voice low and steady, cutting through the clamor of uncertainty. And I've come to help you embrace what you truly are. Clay interjected, you need to stay away from him, Clara. He doesn't reveal anything without a cost. Hal dismissed Clay with a wave of his hand. You don't understand the stakes, Clay. He turned his penetrating gaze back to Clara, the shadows momentarily receding as if respecting the power in his words. You face a choice that can alter everything. Will you live in the light, or will you accept the dark gift that is your heritage? The words hung heavy in the air, layered with meaning Clara couldn't fathom. A dark gift? Her family raised her to believe in normality, in the mundane. But now, everything felt like a twisted fairy tale. Her throat constricted around the weight of the moment. You said I carry a legacy, she murmured, uncertainty creeping up her spine like a spider's crawl. What do you mean? What is my heritage? Hal stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that felt electric against her skin. You were born of a world that merges with shadows. A world where forces collide and seek to claim their own. It's not just about your identity, it's about protecting those you love. Gus shifted uneasily, placing himself in a protective stance beside Clara. This sounds like a bunch of nonsense. Clara isn't a part of any dark lineage. Clay's eyes narrowed, sparks of impatience igniting in him. Guardians don't return empty-handed, Hal. If she embraces this, it will wake the darkness. Are you prepared for the consequences? The shadows seemed to ripple ominously, and Clara felt a deep stirring inside her, a mix of fear and curiosity, compelling her to understand. What do you mean, wake the darkness? Those who once walked beside you are restless, Hal replied grimly. They wish to reclaim what is theirs. It will not end well if you deny who you are. Suddenly, the mill's ambient noise died down, a deathly silence settling in, broken only by their ragged breathing. Clara felt it then, a pulse emanating from the darkness, a beckoning that made her skin prickle. Clara, Clay said, frustration seeped into his voice. You have to make a choice, now. We don't have time for games. With each pulse, a darker thrill gripped her heart. Could it be true? Was there something more to her life than she had ever known? As she wrestled with her thoughts, a figure slipped out of the shadows behind Hal, its form fluid and indistinct, lurking closer. Clara's breath caught in her throat. What if I said the darkness could empower you? The figure whispered, its voice like silk and stone, irresistible yet foreboding. Clara fought to steady herself, feeling the raw danger swirling around them. Her life was at a fork in the road, and the darkness loomed like a tempest ready to consume everything she held dearly. If she chose not to embrace her fate, what would become of her? But if she accepted, where would it lead her? The room shuddered as a gust of wind swept through, swirling dust and memories. Trembling, Clara looked at the two men. What will happen if I step forward? The shadows seemed to shift, and the tension drummed between them like a heartbeat racing toward an inevitable conclusion. Only one way to find out, Hal said with a slight smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. But know this: choosing light means forsaking a piece of yourself. The shadows whispered her name again, a haunting promise that echoed through the void. Clara felt the weight of her choice pressing down on her like a heavy stone, and as the apparition loomed closer, she knew the moment had come. What would she decide in the face of the unknown? The decision could shatter the silence or unearth the truth long buried. As darkness tangled around her, she realized this was only the beginning, and the real question hung in the air like the scent of smoke: what shadows awaited her embrace? Clara felt a desperate pull, an invisible force tugging her to the edge of the abyss. The figure that had approached from the shadows was now fully formed, glimmering faintly in the dim light of the mill. It looked almost human, yet its eyes held ancient sorrow, and its presence felt like a dark storm gathering momentum. "What do you want from me?" she gasped, her voice trembling, each word heavy with trepidation. "Not what I want," the figure replied, a smile that flashed like lightning across its face. "What you need. You carry the blood of those who made choices long before you knew existence. They wait, Clara. They are restless, and time runs thin." Hal leaned closer, his expression serious. "You must understand, Clara, that by choosing the darkness, you tap into something primal. But with power comes sacrifice. Many before you have fallen because they did not grasp the truth." "Power?" Clara echoed, her mind racing. "I don't want power. I just want to understand." "Life isn't that simple," Clay interjected, frustration written all over his features. "Hal knows. I know. This is not a game. They're not just shadows. They are remnants of your past, your family's past. You have to choose wisely." The air pulsed again, and Clara's heart thudded in her chest. Could she really awaken something that had been dormant for generations? The idea caused her skin to tingle with fear and thrill in equal measure. All at once, memories flashed before her, flashes of laughter shared with her family, warm summer days, and a sense of belonging. Could they really be intertwined with this legacy? "Stop!" Clara cried. "You're saying this like I have no choice. You don't understand my life. You don't understand what I'm leaving behind." Hal's expression softened, but there was an edge to his gaze. "But what if what you're leaving behind is merely a veil? What if this reality is just a stepping stone to something far greater? What if you've been living in a cage?" "Stop talking in riddles." Gus spoke out, his voice a lingering echo of Clara's turmoil. "Clara, listen to me. This all sounds too dangerous. We've come here to help you, not put you in deeper waters." "The waters run deep," the figure interjected smoothly. "And there's beauty beneath the waves. Clara, to know yourself is to face the shadows, to walk with them. They will not let you go without a fight." As the chilling weight of those words sank in, Clara felt her resolve waver. She glanced back at Clay and Gus, their faces etched with concern. Would she truly be turning her back on them, on everything? "I want to be a pawn in someone else's game," Clara shouted, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Pawn or queen, the choice will always be yours," Hal replied, his voice enveloping her like a shroud. "But understand this, if you deny your birthright, those shadows will not simply fade away. They will rise, and they won't be alone." With each word, Clara's world felt like it was fracturing, an earthquake beneath her feet. The darkness pulsated around her like a living entity, whispering promises and threats alike. "Choose now, Clara," Hal urged, his intensity mounting. "Will you embrace the darkness and uncover your true potential? Or will you turn your back and forsake your lineage?" At that moment, the shadows seemed to erupt, swirling violently, and just when Clara thought she might crumble under the pressure, a figure materialized from the tempest, its form solidifying into something once familiar. "Clara! Wake up!" It was her mother, eyes blazing with urgency. "The choice is yours, but remember, truth has a price. Choose wisely." Clara felt the world spinning out of control. The swirling darkness, the fragmented imagery of her past, and the weight of legacy converged into a singular, tumultuous moment. Clara. The voices, the shadows, her mother's call, Hal's promise became a cacophony in her mind. Could she truly confront the shadows waiting to claim her? As the room darkened further, Clara realized the choice wasn't just about her destiny, it was about protecting everyone she loved. Yet, every shadow harbored a truth she feared to uncover. The darkness thickened and a sinister laugh echoed in the mill, and in that pivotal moment, Clara knew she had to decide, but one question still loomed large: was it too late to claim her own fate amidst the uprising shadows? The shadows swirled around Clara, their mocking whispers growing louder, each voice weaving into the fabric of her fear. Panic clawed at her insides. She could feel the weight of her mother's eyes, burning with desperation, urging her to make the right choice. Clara, don't let them win. Her mother's faint voice echoed, almost lost in the rising tempest of darkness. You have the strength to choose. Hal stepped forward, his figure illuminated by the erratic flicker of light that now filled the mill. No one can make this decision but you. You hold the key to a world beyond this one. But remember, power without knowledge is perilous. As those words sank in, a memory surged, her grandmother's voice telling stories of ancestors long gone, tales imbued with both horror and heroism. Clara clutched her head, trying to drown out the rising chaos. I don't want a legacy. I just want to be normal, to be free. But you are anything but normal, Clara, Hal insisted, an unyielding intensity in his gaze. You're the convergence of choices made long before you took your first breath. The shadows pulsed, closing in, hungry for her resolve. A part of her wanted to flee, yet another part felt tethered to the shadowy figure that had approached her. It was waiting, watching, its presence both terrifying and alluring. Then, suddenly, she remembered the old locket hidden away in her drawer, the one her mother had entrusted to her. She could almost feel its cool metal, the way it had warmed against her skin when she wore it. It had belonged to her mother's mother. It was a piece of history, a fragment of that legacy, and maybe, just maybe, a way to confront the darkness. Show me, Clara said, her voice steadying. Show me what it is I need to see. The figure smiled, an unnerving glimmer flashing in its sorrowful eyes. So be it. But do not think this journey will be without cost. As Clara felt the temperature drop, the shadows began to shift and swirl to form a portal, a shimmering veil opening before her. An image began to emerge, shapes forming from the darkness. Her heart raced. Clara, wait! Gus shouted, a note of panic in his tone, but it was too late. She was pulled forward, and the world around her dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. She stumbled into an unfamiliar landscape, an ancient forest, thick with twisted trees and wrapped in mist. The air was damp, buzzing with tension. Where am I? She whispered, fear clawing back at her throat. The figure appeared beside her, shifting in shape, becoming not just shadow but something more tangible, like a guide. You are at the crossroads of your history, Clara. Here, you will learn of your lineage, the choices that shaped your bloodline. But what about my future? She asked, breathless. What happens if I don't like what I find? A low, haunting laugh echoed through the forest. You cannot run from who you are, dear Clara. Every revelation comes with a consequence. Suddenly, the mists parted, revealing faces, familiar faces of her ancestors. They reached out, their mouths moving, but only silence filled the air. Then Clara saw something that made her heart pound, a figure in a cowboy hat standing defiantly against the tide of darkness. Recognition flooded her as she locked eyes with him. Who are you? She cried, but he merely gestured for her to approach. The shadows trembled, fighting something unseen. She took a trembling step forward, and her vision blurred. The cowboy's expression sharpened with urgency. Clara, trust your heart. You have the power to change your fate. The shadows began to surge toward her, swirling like a tempest, eager to envelop her once more. Clara. You need to wake up. Her mother's voice pierced through the mist, but it sounded distant now, a tether stretched thin. What was she truly willing to face? Clara's heart raced, fear and determination battling within her. She ground her teeth, preparing for either revelation or ruin. Choose. The haunting figure urged. Do you fight or flee? As the storm closed in, Clara took a deep breath. Was she ready for whatever awaited her on this path of shadows? Did she even have a choice at all? Only time would tell if she was strong enough to confront it. And with that thought, she lunged deeper into the shadows, ready to uncover the truth of her legacy. But would the truth be more than she bargained for? The air thickened with tension as Clara held her breath, standing at the edge of confronting her past. The shadows that had danced and whispered were no longer just threatening specters, they echoed the unspoken fears adjoining a lineage she had long shunned. Here we go, she murmured, a mix of trepidation and adrenaline coursing through her. Clay stepped forward, eyes burning with a strange mix of anticipation and predation. You want to know the truth, Clara? Fine. But the truth will grab you. It will not let you go. His voice dripped with foreboding. Gus instinctively moved closer, standing beside her as a bastion of strength. Whatever you see, Clara, I'll be right here. You don't have to go through this alone. His fierce gaze rooted hers, grounding her in something solid amid the swirling turmoil. With a nod that felt more like a weight than a commitment, Clara pressed forward. The shadows began to swirl again, and from within the dancing figures, forms began to emerge with unsettling clarity. Faces, twisted in anguish, emerged as echoes of her ancestors, a reflection of both pride and pain. Look! Shouted Gus, pointing toward a scene unfurling before them. It painted itself like a haunting tableau alive with motion. Clara's heart raced. Were these moments from her past? No. They were fragments of her lineage, illuminating decisions made long before her birth. The clan that had faced trials, adversaries, and amassing shadows over history. The cowboy, his hat shadowing his eyes, appeared with a fierceness that reverberated through the rooted earth. A flicker of hope welled within Clara as she felt his resolve seep into her bones. You are stronger than what they expect, Clara. Fight the chains that bind you. Clay let out a low chuckle. What do you think you'll do? Unravel centuries of darkness with mere determination? Nobody ever comes out unscathed. His cynicism stung, but Clara had no time for doubt. Clara's breath hitched. You're wrong. I won't let fear govern my steps. As her ancestors closed in, she grasped a truth buried in her soul. It wasn't just about facing the past, it was about reclaiming her narrative. Every face around her held a story far more intricate than she had imagined, and as she recognized the pain and honor intertwined within each one, resolve simmered hot against the chill of fear. Show me, Clara urged with fierce output, show me how to claim my voice. The shadows rippled, crafting a door through the swirling haze. The cowboy beckoned her forward, and with unyielding courage, Clara stepped closer. The room spun one final time before crystallizing into a vivid scene. A stormy night, a betrayal severing kinship, her ancestors cornered in a battle against their own reckoning. What happened? She gasped, her heart racing as she watched their plight unfold. A foreboding figure with dark intentions grew personified, but in that shadowy haze, Clara could see her forebear standing tall, drawing strength from their bond, facing tumult. Stop running! The cowboy yelled through the mayhem, and then everything fell silent. The quiet echo of power held the air hostage. Do not abandon your roots. That was it, the lesson wrapped within her blood. Realization struck. She could not turn away. The moments of courage in her family ignited something within her. She squeezed Gus's hand tightly, feeding on the warmth he offered. The strength she sought had already lived within her. No more hiding. No more curses over my name. Clara shouted, her voice echoing within the silhouettes of history. I step forward fully. I embrace who I am. The shadows recoiled, and for the first time, she felt their fear. The truth was sharp, blazing through darkness like a brand. She felt the cowboy's spirit guide her, infusing clarity and direction. She claimed her lineage with ferocity, the darkness around her warping and bending to her will, receding like a tide. Clay went slack-jawed, disbelief thick on his face, as he staggered back. "You think you can change destiny?" he whispered, astonishment pouring through his tone. "Yes," Clara declared, lifting her chin defiantly. "Because I am the author of my story now." As if responding to her resurgence, the swirling shadows began to fragment, unraveling their grip on her fate. Clara's power surged, unified with the legacy she embraced. The faces of her ancestors surged forward, merging into her own. They rose not as ghosts but as warriors strengthened by the fight ahead. With a shout, Clara faced Clay and the shadows, their power thrumming uneasily. "You won't control me anymore." She glowed with newfound radiation, merging fearlessness with the valor inherited through bloodlines. The mill trembled, caught in the collision of her unabashed resolve and the specters of her past. "Embrace your path, Clara." The cowboy's voice echoed, whispering encouragement in her ear. A single burst of light erupted, and with a final surge, she poured everything she was into a brilliant release, scattering darkness like ashes in the wind. The mill's shadows scattered, dissolving into nothingness. Clara emerged from the wreckage a warrior, her spirit fueled by those who came before her, fierce and resolute in the light. Gus stepped closer, eyes wide in amazement. "Clara, you did it." With a smile, Clara felt the weight of the past spilling away, leaving remnants of strength where shadows once loomed. "No more hiding. We face whatever comes as one." They stood together, a solid unit against anything that dared define them. Gus lifted her hand, intertwining their fingers, and a bond solidified in remembrance, an alliance forged in bravery. Clara turned to look at Clay, who now seemed small and lost against the broken shadows of a woman reborn. "I want to be your pawn. I refuse to let my story be written for me." Clarity shimmered in the air as Clara took a deep breath, her spirit soared high above the horizon. And with that breath, she reclaimed her life, no longer a victim of her past but a testament to her journey, the strength of choice reverberating in every breath, calling her home. And so, as dawn broke, painting the edges of the sky, Clara understood she had become the architect of her own fate. Just like a cowboy under a vast American sky, she was free. Now as we pause, it's time for you to step into your power. You need to subscribe now to stay with us for more heart-stirring stories like Clara's. Smash that like button now if you felt the power of this journey. With just one click, you feed the algorithm and ensure these incredible tales rise. Flood the comments section, let your reactions and theories pour out because I want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the power of bravery together. Remember, your voice matters in shaping the narrative here.